Hey guys, welcome back. Going on a diet can sometimes feel impossible, or at least keeping a diet, right? I want you to meet Mallory and Manny. The name of their channel is called The Norringtons, and the Norringtons here have just gotten some really good news. Check it out.
Hi guys, happy Saturday. So yesterday I woke up and I saw this class and I was like, all right, I don't want to do that. So I swiped it away, right? And then I refreshed the page and it popped right back up, and normally it don't do that. And so I got off the phone and then I used the bathroom and then I went back to the phone and I opened it back up and it was there again. And I'm like, you know what? That's 3 times. It shouldn't pop up like this 3 times. So I opened it up and I read about it, and it was like a fitness class. It's 6 weeks. And I'm like, you know what? I'm ready, right? And I got this amazing supporter right here, my husband. So I signed up for it, and they text me and was like, we're excited to meet you and all that. So that makes me more exciting. My bad. Yeah, I was so excited, clearly. So we're now headed to the consultation, and
Did she just call the consultation a contrasexual? All right, so let's stop right there real quick. You're overweight. You know you need to exercise. You've got a husband that is super supportive of you. And all of a sudden, you have the ability to take a diet and exercise course for free. Let me know down in the comments if you would actually go for it.
I'm going to see if I think I can do this, which regardless if I feel like I can't, I'm going to do it because I want to do it. I have my husband here to support me, even though it's only women and he can't go in. He's going to be supporting from the outside. So I'm excited about that.
I hope he's not one of these husbands that literally waits in the car in the parking lot while she takes her 1 hour exercise course each week. I've actually met people like that. Have you ever met a guy like that?
I really cannot wait. And so I'm going to try to vlog as much as I can because I want you guys, which is also part of our family, to watch this journey because this journey means a lot. Like I said, I'm going to vlog as much as I can. I don't know how they feel about that. And I'm going to make sure it's like only me in the videos. So I make sure I respect everybody's privacy and all that. But I'm just so excited to start this. Like this program comes with like a meal plan, exercises. I have a coach. What else? Just everything I really need to get. Yeah, I have a motivator. Is that the coach, right? And I'll be the coach. So I'm just so excited, guys, and I want you guys to come with me. So I need y'all, first of all, I need y'all to send me some positive vibes because I am nervous. Y'all might not know it, but I am a shy person when it comes to meeting people.
All right, just for fun, let's take a little poll down in the comments section. If you think that she's going to have a successful first day, let me know. If you think she's going to have a tough first day, let me know. Or if you think something else is going to happen, let me know your thoughts. But right now, I love her enthusiasm. It looks like she's ready to tackle this. I also love how her husband has her back. It sounds like he really wants her to succeed in this. That's all you can ask for out of a partner. Let's see what happens.
And hopefully I can continue with the class after these 6 weeks. So guys, pray for me. Be with me. I love you guys, and I'll vlog as soon as I can. There it is, guys. Oh my God. I'm so excited. Oh, there's one of the girls that be on the picture. I wonder if that's her. Yeah. Look, guys, I made it. Are you excited for me? Because I'm excited. All right, guys. So we're back. I have good news, bad news. I'm kind of bummed because I guess it's true that nothing is really free because it said free for 6 weeks to try it out. And then I'm like, okay, let me do these 6 weeks, make sure I can do it for free. And, I know for a fact I'm going to continue this. And then we sit down to talk to the lady. She's very, very, very sweet. I like her. And then boom, it says, yes, it's free, but you have to give me $500 up front. You do the 6 week, you lose 20 pounds and we give it back.
I don't know if it's exactly how she just said, but if she just said what I think she said, it sounds like during the 6 weeks, if you lose the 20 pounds and you succeed, you get your money back. But if you don't succeed, they probably just like keep working with you until you lose the weight, but you probably never get your money back at that time. So once again, sometimes things sound a little too good to be true. How angry would you be on a scale of 1 to 10 if this happened to you? To be honest with you, I would laugh at this because you kind of know there's no such thing as a free lunch.
And when she said that 500 or 499, 500 up front, my whole mood just changed. I got extremely sad. And I was like, well, I guess that was another lie. Everything sounded good. She explained the meal plan up until she got to the accountability part. And I'm like, that's the real thing behind this. It's not really free, but you're advertising it as free. I feel like I understand it. Nothing's free. You don't have to come for me in the comments. I know nothing is free, but I feel like you should not advertise it as free if it's not free.
So let's be honest, she has a legitimate reason to be angry, but I have a legitimate good answer for all of you, including her. The answer to the question of how can you lose that 20 or 30 pounds and actually accomplish it is to become a venter. Walk with us. Walking is completely free. It always has been, it always will be, and it works. So go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Good morning, Venters. Hey, did you guys hear? Phil Donahue died yesterday at age 88. For all of you guys that don't live in the United States, Phil Donahue was kind of like the original talk show host, or at least the original that I remember, because I can remember as early as being 4, 5, 6 years old, my family watching Donahue. And Donahue, back in the day, did talk shows on legitimate subjects. As a matter of fact, somewhere in the 90s, talk shows actually went from serious topics and subjects to more of like, whatever makes people fight and argue and drama. Because a lot of times when you think of Maury Povich, you think not of somebody like Donahue, you think of somebody that's a little closer to Jerry Springer, right? So you have Donahue on one side, where all he did was serious topics, with an asterisk. I say that because it's not like it was the most enjoyable show for a 5 or 6 year old, but I just remember they always talked about serious topics, marriage, divorce, politics, how you thought of these cleansers versus these cleansers. They always did something that was real world and down to earth, nothing too weird or dramatic. But that evolved. People got tired of those shows.
So fast forward a little bit, one of my favorite shows was a talk show called Montel Williams. And if you remember any of these talk shows as we're going through these, let me know down in the comments. But remember, one of the keys to weight loss, at least one of the keys to walking and enjoying yourself, is that you don't always have to sweat and get hardcore muscles building, right? Walking is just about enjoying yourself, and one of the best ways to walk is sometimes to listen to your favorite talk show, whether it be Walk, Talk, Vent or some other venue, right? Another fun thing with walking is that it's really about longevity. And what's really interesting with these talk show hosts, and one of the best ways to keep your walk going on a long-term basis, is to listen to music. Listen to a show while you're walking, because you want to know something? All of a sudden you forget that you're walking. So imagine if every day you had a fun show like Walk, Talk, Vent that you listen to while you're walking. It really helps get you through your routine. And that's what a lot of people did with the Phil Donahue show. But talk shows, like I was saying earlier, they evolved. So the first one that I really started to enjoy as a young adult was Montel Williams. And I don't know if you guys remember on Montel, but he was famous for having Sylvia Browne on. Sylvia Browne made a lot of predictions about the future. And I don't know if you guys remember, in 2020, somebody showed a page from one of her books. She predicted the situation we went through back in 2020 till 2023 or so. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you guys ever hear about that? I'll have to look that up on Facebook and maybe share that with you guys. So anyway, I used to be hooked on watching the Montel Williams show. And the Montel Williams show played at different times of the day. It played during the midday, but it also played in the evening. I think they had a situation where I could watch like the replay of it. So a lot of times I would watch the Montel Williams show. I thought it was really good, really entertaining. Some other people got that same bit of entertainment out of the Geraldo Rivera show. And so we had these fun shows growing up. And I don't know if you guys remember, but even Rosie O'Donnell had her own talk show. I always feel like Rosie O'Donnell is a little bit of she kind of cheated us, because she came into popularity as being this woman that claimed she had this really big crush on Tom Cruise. And now, looking back at the last 30 years since she's been famous, obviously she never really liked Tom Cruise, right? And if she really did have a crush on Tom Cruise, it was either totally overblown or it was just made up, to gain popularity. So I don't really know what happened with Rosie O'Donnell, but I can tell you guys one thing. If you ever look back at her Rosie O'Donnell show, you will see somebody that doesn't come across in any way, shape, or form like the current Rosie O'Donnell, right? Keep fast forwarding. After Rosie O'Donnell, we started getting this guy named Jerry Springer, who also recently died. I think he died within the last 2 or 3 years. Jerry Springer, in addition to having a goofy talk show, and when I mean goofy, it seemed like there was a fight on his talk show between the guests every single day, and we all grew up on that in the 90s, didn't we? God, I can still remember the crowd going, "Jerry, Jerry." He was probably the first talk show host that was just way bigger than the show itself. People loved Jerry Springer. His call to fame was, I believe he was the mayor of Cincinnati, or he was the mayor of some town in the Midwest. And I think he went and saw a prostitute, and instead of paying the prostitute with cash, I think he wrote her a check. And so it ended up becoming this big running joke. But you want to know something? One of the things I really admire about Jerry Springer is, instead of running from that like 99% of people would, right, and denying it, I think it just became one of those things that he was okay with, knowing that it was one of those things he did. He probably regretted it, or at least regretted paying for the prostitute with a check, right? But if you remember, instead of like letting it hurt his reputation, he just rolled with it. It made for even more fun with his talk show. So he kind of spun this real world weirdness in his life into his show. And I don't know, I think if we have to think about who's the most popular talk show host of all time, we could go with Oprah Winfrey, because she's probably number one, right? By the way, I forgot to mention her in the 80s and 90s. Oprah was super popular. But the reality is more young people watched Jerry Springer. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Jerry Springer had a famous bodyguard or somebody on his security staff named Steve, right? That bald guy. Steve ended up having his own talk show, which I believe ran for another 10 or 12 years. So it's kind of interesting how if you go back in time, it kind of all started with Phil Donahue. If there's no Phil Donahue show that was successful, you probably don't have Oprah. You probably don't have Rosie O'Donnell. You definitely don't have Montel and Geraldo. And so all these names that we've grown up with, including Jerry Springer, and then even nowadays, the last talk show that I've seen, I believe, was with Steve Harvey, who also is the host of Family Feud. So it's kind of funny how you can see things change throughout the years. Family Feud has its own dynamic line, because if you remember, there was Richard Dawson, and then there was a guy in the 80s, I forget his name, but he ended up killing himself. Do you guys remember that? And then I think ultimately he was replaced by, I want to say Steve Harvey, but there might have been another person or two in between. But it's funny how our talk shows, if you think about it, our talk shows and our game shows, they live forever, because you could do that same thing with game shows. You can talk about how Bob Barker passed on the torch to Drew Carey, right? So it's kind of interesting. Now, the thing that makes the Phil Donahue situation interesting when it comes to walking is Phil lived to be 88 years old. So when he was 44 or 45, which many of us are in that age group now, I wonder if he thought to himself, this is my middle age. This is my perfect middle age, 44. I'm going to live to be another 44 years before I kick the bucket. The truth is, he probably didn't think of that. He probably hoped for something like that, right? Like, hey, I hope I live to be in my 80s or 90s and of relative good health, right? Found out yesterday that he's married to Marlo Thomas, and her dad started the St. Jude hospitals, you know, where they help a lot of kids that are dealing with cancer and terminal type illnesses. So I just thought that was really interesting. Her dad, I believe, is Danny Thomas. He started St. Jude. So it's funny how different people are connected. The other day I was watching the one guy on Dateline, the white-haired guy, I forget his name. But I come to find out, did you guys know that the guy on Dateline, and I'll try to put his name up here, he is the stepdad of Matthew Perry. And I don't know if you guys heard, but Matthew Perry from Friends recently, I've been hearing a lot of stuff in the news that they're looking at his assistant and a couple of different doctors that he dealt with that actually fed into his drug addiction of ketamine and stuff, which ended up leading to his untimely death last year. And apparently some people are going to go to prison for that. Now think about this. His assistant that was part of this situation that led to his death, he trusted that assistant. And that assistant at one point or another, through greed or whatever, ended up causing this situation, or at least playing a part in this situation. Now, I haven't followed it too closely, but it's just kind of interesting because there was one situation where they actually showed a text from one of these doctors to another person. And they basically were calling Matthew Perry an idiot and a fool and oh my God, this guy's going to do something harsh. And remember, doctors take an oath to do no harm. So the thing that makes the Matthew Perry thing so devastating is just the fact that he was literally surrounded by evil, devilish beings. Here's the scary thing. what's to say you and I aren't surrounded by those same devilish type characters? People that are your closest friends might actually be your biggest enemy, and you just don't know it. Do I wish that on you? No. Are they your biggest enemy? Probably not, but you never know. A lot of times when we go through hell in our life, we reflect and we look back and we say, you know what? Maybe Joey wasn't a friend. Maybe he was more of an enemy. Maybe Debbie wasn't really my best gal. Maybe she was against me this whole time. And a lot of times you find out about these things after the fact. Remember the old saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. You never know, that person that you think, hey, they've really come around, they're my friend now. For all you know, they could have it out against you, and they could be just getting closer so they can find a way to stick their fangs in you. So you got to be careful about those things. Now, there was another death that I was affected by more so than Phil Donahue's. One of the people I talk about is my daughter's mom. One of the people I don't talk about is my daughter's uncle, her mom's brother, Brandon. This guy, just like Jason, just like Jeff, just like Chris, just like Dawn, this guy was one of the closest people in my life. His name was Brandon Gray. 23 years ago today, he was out drinking with his buddies. He was just freshly 20 or 21. I don't know if he had a fake ID or not. I feel bad about this, but I actually had an ID that I gave away to Brandon when I was 21 because I had thought I lost it and I got it replaced. Then I found my old ID and I gave it to Brandon. Anyway, he ended up using that to get into a couple clubs, from what I understand, when he was 20. When he was 21, he and his buddies went to a club. This was at a time where he was on his own ID. And no, I'm not proud that I gave him my ID, because check this story out. When he was 21, he and his buddy and his girlfriend left a club drunk as skunks. They got in an accident. His buddy died instantly. They had to use the jaws of life to pull Brandon Gray's body out of the vehicle. And for the next 20 some odd years, he basically had to live in a state where he was pretty much in a vegetative state. The amazing thing is his mom, Carrie, who's still very much alive, she is my daughter's grandmother on her mom's side. She took care of her adult son over the next 20 years until he finally passed away. I believe it was 2019, right before all this stuff went down. And even that's crazy, because again, that's one of those things that seems like it was just yesterday. But man, as you get older, these 3, 4, 10-year blocks of time, they just disappear right before your eyes. And it's really scary, but here's the overall point of my story. Despite having all these friends in life, it seems like the people that were really brother type people to me have passed away at extremely early ages. Where Phil Donahue got to live to the ripe old age of 88, my buddy Brandon, my daughter's uncle, he only got to live to the age of 40, and the last half of his life, I don't even know if he knew which way was up or down. But I got to tell you about his mom, Carrie. This is my daughter's grandma. Or she doesn't like to be called grandma. This is my daughter's bubby. That's what my daughter calls her bubby. She took care of her son in such a selfless way, literally giving up her own life for her son. She's still very much alive, so I don't want you to think she gave up her life, but she kind of turned in her life to take care of her son 24/7. And there were moments where he went off to special situations to get physical therapy and stuff. But predominantly speaking, she took care of him nonstop. And check this out. He he got in a car accident because of alcohol, right? She ended up taking Brandon in his wheelchair to different schools around the state, and she might have even gone to a couple schools around the country. They ended up forming Team Brandon, and they went to various schools talking about how you need to never drive drunk. Have a designated driver. People are expecting you to come home, and when you don't make it, not only are you potentially ruining your own life, you're potentially ruining the lives of people that absolutely love and adore you, such as your mom and dad. And the household, over the last 20 years of his life, was always very upbeat and peppy, despite the dark cloud. So I just want to let Carrie know, if you're listening to this, Carrie, because she is one of my subscribers, I just think it's fantastic that you are one of the most incredible moms I've ever seen in my life. The sad thing about Carrie is that over the last 4 or 5 years since Brandon actually passed away, she kind of went into a little funk. Now, she's out of it now, I believe, but she still has a lot of ghosts in her life, because check this out. Every year she has to dealing with his birthday. Every year she has to deal with days like today, where it's the anniversary of his accident. She has to deal with every year the anniversary of his passing, you know? And then on top of that, there's special occasions in her life where instead of remembering Easter or Christmas in positive ways, which I'm sure she still does, but she remembers her son on those days as well. So imagine a situation where the loss is taken hard, and believe me, guys, when you lose somebody, it's difficult, but the loss she felt for her son when he finally passed away a couple years ago was so extreme that literally every day for about 6 or 7 months on Facebook, she would put up a picture and just talk about how she missed him. And I think even then I'm being a little bit conservative. If I were to really put a number on it, I think she basically missed him almost daily on Facebook for about 1.5 years. I mean, the poor woman. When I was growing up, you want to have people that support your relationships. And for the longest time, I felt like Carrie, keep in mind, she was the mother of my fiance. I felt like she was against me. Was there any good reason for it? Absolutely not. But I felt like she was against me. And again, Carrie, if you're watching this, I just felt like you could care less if I was in your daughter's life or not, which didn't make sense to me because I was the mother of your granddaughter, right? But after me and your daughter broke up, all of a sudden, you changed. It was almost like you don't know what you got until it's gone. And when all of a sudden I was gone, against my will, mind you, all of a sudden Carrie started reaching out to me over the phone. And for the next 6, 7 months, she basically was saying, I don't know what's wrong with my daughter. She just wants to be single. She's being very, very selfish. And all of a sudden, I felt like with Carrie, I had somewhat of an ally. Now, as we progressed through the years, this thing happened to Brandon. She took care of Brandon. I grew further and further apart from her daughter because we weren't going to get back together, you know? But all of a sudden, in this family where I felt like it was them against me, Brandon, again, this is when he was 18, 19, 20, he was so for me. He would tell me things like, bro, you're my favorite person that my sister's ever dated and been with. You're the father of my niece. I really hope you and my sister get back together. I mean, he was just a real positive force in a time where I was in darkness, you know, because his sister didn't want to get back together with me. And by the way, just to kind of throw this out there, we did end up getting back together off and on over the next year or two, you know, after we broke up, but it wasn't the same. When people take breaks from one another, they start dating other people, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to give my ex-husband or my ex-wife or my ex-boyfriend and girlfriend another chance. those almost never work out. Why? Because you've kind of gotten a taste of what it's like to be single again. And remember that age-old adage, when you're single, you wish you were partnered up with somebody, and when you're in a relationship, you wish you were single. Why? Because the grass always looks greener, you know? That's why I tell people, believe it or not, when you solve your weight issue, whether it's in 90 days or over the next year, or whether it's 10 years down the line, right now your weight issue is the biggest problem in your life. But when you solve that problem, mark my words, your problems will be replaced by other problems. So there's always going to be some hurdle to jump over in this life. There's always going to be some hurdle to tackle. So 23 years ago today, Brandon got in this accident, and it really changed Carrie's life. Sometimes our lives are dictated by things that are completely out of our control. Tomorrow, that person could be you, or that person could be me. I have some people in my life that if they were to pass, it would really cause grief, you know? It would really be a tough thing. How tough would it be? It would be so tough that maybe even walking would go out the window, because sometimes you just want to be depressed, right? So that's why I always tell people, if you're dealing with loss, if you're dealing with tough situations in life, try to walk, okay? But at the same time, if you're just feeling bottom of the earth, sometimes even walking is impossible to do. Carrie would take Brandon in his wheelchair, and she would do triathlons and 5Ks and 10Ks while pushing her son in a four-wheeled wheelchair. It was just amazing. Or when I say four-wheeled wheelchair, it was like one of these wheelchairs that are converted so that you can push him while running. It wasn't like a regular wheelchair. It was a specialized wheelchair. And she would push him through these 5 and 10Ks, and she would go to high schools and junior highs around the valley for like 10, 15 years with her son. And I believe her moniker is Team Brandon. And again, I'll try to put it here on the screen. But basically just a great guy, one of the people that I consider like my brother. If we all die and have our own room in heaven, I hope that he's in my heaven. I want him to be in my heaven, you know? Just one of those people, just a great guy. What's his one stain? His one stain is drinking and driving. You know, that was one of the things that would happen a lot of times back in the day. You would go to these clubs. You would drink until 11:30 or midnight. The club would let you hang out for another hour to kind of sober up and dance off your drunkenness, right? But some people have a way of sneaking a bottle of liquor in their pants. And then even when it's last call for alcohol, some people have a way of saying, it's not my last call, and they keep right on drinking. Or even worse, they drink so much before the last call that they're just completely obliterated. What does alcohol have a tendency to do? It has a tendency to convince us that we're fine and we can drive. Why? It gives us confidence, that same confidence that a lot of people needed back in the day to go meet people, you know, at clubs and say, hey, my name's Brandon. What's your name? You know, sometimes you needed that liquid courage. The only problem with that liquid courage is sometimes it leads you to make horrible decisions like drinking and driving. So again, when you see people walking, sometimes they're not walking because of weight gain or weight loss or financial issues. Sometimes they're dealing with legitimate, miserable things in their life. And one of the things that I think we all wish for as parents is we want to live a good long life to be in our kids' lives and our grandkids' lives, but we don't want to live a big long life and meanwhile our kids pass away. You know, that goes out of the order. You want your kids to outlive you. So again, Carrie, if you're watching this show, which you probably aren't, but if you are watching the show, I just think you're a wonderful mom. A lot of times we don't know what we've got until it's gone. I think if I would have ever married your daughter, I think you would have been a great mom-in-law, but it wasn't meant to be. But at the same time, my heart's in the same place yours is today. 23 years ago, a person that was very much like my brother, Brandon Gray, made a horrible decision that ended up affecting and shaping the lives of many people around him. And it's one of those things where every day some of you might be going through that same situation where you're drinking, where you're doing drugs, where you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I don't know if it's easy to quit drugs like it is easy to lose weight, but here's the thing, we can apply the same principles to drugs. You can try your darndest to wean yourself off. You can make a goal. You can pick up the phone and you can call some professionals out there that can help you. You can make today day one of your sobriety journey. And if you're sober, you're never going to bother anybody. But if you're an alcoholic, there's going to be people that are constantly against you. So if you want your world to change, put that beer down, pick up the phone, call the addiction hotline, see if there's something you can do to make change in your life. And again, put your shoes on, come outside and walk with us. You don't have to be overweight to walk. You don't have to be 3 weeks away from your surgery to walk. You know, there's no better reason to walk than simply to clear your mind of the crap that's in it. And I'm telling you, I bet 100% of us have at least some things that we think about daily that we really need to just get out of our system. The best way to do that, take a couple walks. Try to think about positive things. Try to think about solutions to your problems. Try to think about how can we make today a little bit better than yesterday, and how can we make tomorrow even better than today, okay? So one of the things we can do for folks like Carrie is whenever we drink, we can get a designated driver. We can use Uber and Lyft. I mean, my goodness, I hate to say this, but we've always had taxi cabs. What's the problem with taxi cabs? You kind of have to wait till they arrive and pick you up, right? But with Uber and Lyft, who knows? Maybe my boy Brandon would still be alive. We didn't have Uber and Lyft back in the day. But again, alcoholics have a way of saying, I'm fine, I don't need Uber and Lyft, I drove my car here, I'm taking it home. It's one of those things where sometimes as people, we can be really stubborn. And again, I'm not proud of this, but even back when I was in my 20s, I kind of came up with weird ways to find my way home when I was drunk. Craziest thing ever. I tell people all the time, we need to throw those people in jail. I was one of those people. And I'm very, very disappointed in myself for that, but I wanted to tell you guys the truth. And I think I've told you guys that before. Did that happen all the time? No, it probably happened 2 or 3 times, but still, when you try to come up with a strategy for driving home inebriated, that's not a good sign. So don't be proud of yourself if you have some way to drive when you're inebriated. Get that thought out of your head and start calling Uber and be safe. Your family wants you home. But your family wants you home in good health. So I want you to keep walking. I always tell you guys, make today the day that you do a little extra credit. Yeah, we've been walking for 25 minutes. The only reason I'm stopping is because I got to go to work. You don't have to work for another hour. Why don't you push the boundaries and do another 15 or 20 minute walk? Remember, this challenge, we only have about 27 more days left. So I'm doing push-ups like crazy. I got another little thing where I'm able to box with these stretchy little cables like bungee cords. I'm really going all out this last month, and I invite you to do the same. So have a wonderful day. Remember, keep your head up. There's a lot of people that are dealing with crap in the world. If you're not, consider yourself blessed. And have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.